Hey everyone, my name is Maggie. In my previous videos, I've talked about artists in the early eras of Western art, and I really encourage you to check those videos out as well. Today, let's fast forward a bit to the late 19th century to talk about the French artist Claude Monet, who was the founder of the Impressionism movement that paved the way for modern arts in Europe. The 19th century was a revolutionary period for European history and a time of great transformations in all spheres of life. People challenged aristocratic ruling classes and provoked the rise of human civil rights, democracy and nationalism, industrialization, and free market systems as Europe climbs to the peak of its global power. In the 1800s, France was ruled by Napoleon I and his nephew Napoleon III. Back then, when Impressionism was first born, the French Academy of Arts mostly favored realistic and highly detailed paintings that depict grand religious, mythological, and historical events. Landscapes and still life paintings were deemed inferior, while portraits and historical paintings were highly prized. Young Impressionists questioned this long-established hierarchy of subject matters. These artists found that they could capture the momentary and transient effects of sunlight by working quickly in front of their subjects in the open air rather than in the studio. As their name suggests, the Impressionists tried to get down on canvas impressions of how landscapes, objects, and people appear to them at a certain moment in time as it fades. They painted vibrant scenes of mundane everyday life, what they saw, thought, and felt, or stopped seeking perfection in visual appearances. Impressionists often used expressive and lucid brushwork, as well as lighter and sunnier colors than previous artists. Brushstrokes became rapid and broken into discrete dabs, while different colors were left somewhat unblended in order to render the fleeting effects of light and atmosphere. This resulted in a greater awareness of light and color and the shifting pattern of the natural scene. They abandoned the traditional three-dimensional perspectives and rejected the clarity of forms and outlines that were used to distinguish the more important elements of a picture. For this reason, many critics faulted Impressionist paintings for their unfinished appearances and seemingly amateurish quality. It was in 1874, a group of artists called the Anonymous Society of Painters, Sculptors, Printmakers, etc., organized an exhibition in Paris that launched the Impressionism movement. This brought a radical break from artistic conventions and launched one of the most significant movements in art history that provoked the emergence of modern arts. Its founding members included Claude Monet, Auguste Renoir, Camille Pissarro, and several others. Edouard Manet also had a great influence on Impressionist arts. The group worked together and exhibited together, independent from the official Émile Salon and the French Academy of Arts, which had consistently rejected most of their works. Arbitrary as it was, for most of the 19th century then, the Salon was the only way for artists to exhibit their works and gain a reputation. The public was initially very hostile to these exhibitions and this style of painting. They attracted many critiques, one of which, named Louis Leroy, actually gave this movement its name, when he referred to Monet's impression, Sunrise, as a mere impression for its unfinished sketch-like quality. The artists themselves adopted this name as descriptive of their intention to convey momentary visual impressions. They held 7 subsequent exhibitions, the last in 1886. Although it had a short existence before the artists dissolved to pursue their own aesthetic interests, it had accomplished a revolution in the history of arts, providing a technical starting point for the post-impressionism and freeing all subsequent Western arts from traditional techniques and approaches to subject matters. Claude Monet was born into a middle-class merchant family in Paris. His parents were financially comfortable, but by no means rich or aristocratic. And in Monet's early career, he struggled to make a living as a painter. When he was 22, Monet joined the Paris studio of the academic history painter Charles Clair. His classmates included Auguste Renoir, Frédéric Vizeu, and other future Impressionists that later formed the group. Monet wasn't all that successful in these early years. with a handful of paintings accepted for exhibition at the annual salons. Much more of his more ambitious works were rejected, which led Monet to join others in establishing their own independent exhibitions. Throughout his long career, Monet consistently painted the landscapes and leisure activities of Paris and its environs, as well as the Havre and the Normandy coast. One of Monet's most significant figure painting is The Lady with the Parasol. In this, he captures his wife, Camille, and his son outdoors under natural sunlight. The parasol itself makes many appearances in his works, as most women back then used these to protect their skins and eyes. He depicts the bright sunlight that touches the top of the parasol and the contrast of light and shadows on the figure's face and clothing from the sun, with the flowers beneath her feet tinting her dress. Monet allowed some of her features to fade into the shadow, which wasn't seen before by other artists who wanted to show all of the details of the features. Monet focused on using the lights to depict the vibrancy of the picture in the open space under the warmth of sunlight to deliver the impression with a glance. He also painted many other pictures of his wife, such as the woman in the garden that depicts a natural scene outdoors rather than a conventional modeling composition. Monet painted numerous railroads and bridges, from various angles and at different times of the day. It was very unusual then to paint scenes of the urban life in the city, in which he expresses the modernity not only through the people, but also through the architectures. But more than anything, he favored the nature. From trees, flowers to water, in his garden and out in the park, he depicts the flickers of sunlight that pass through the leaves and the warm, brilliant tones of natural light in the day. They are overwhelmed with the vibrantly colored flowers as they seem to bloom off the surface of the canvas. His water emerges from broad strokes of color and intricately built-up texture, showing reflections of lights and objects. Or, as shown in this picture, the Thames below Westminster, the entire scene is dominated by a layer of mist containing subtle hues of green, gold, violet, and pink, creating a dense atmosphere that renders the architecture in the blurred distance. Monet lived a long life, passing at the age of 86. He was the most consistent and prolific practitioner of the Impressionism movement's philosophy of expressing one's perceptions before nature. He, along with other Impressionist artists, affirmed in their works the freedom of technique and focused on a personal rather than a conventional approach to subject matters, producing a truthful depiction of nature. He had influenced many post-Impressionist artists and had a great lasting impact on subsequent Western arts until now. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this introduction to Monet and the Impressionism movement. And I really encourage you to check him out more and perhaps go see for yourself some of his works in major museums. Like and subscribe for future videos every week, and check out our previous videos on other historical artists and musicians, and leave a comment of who you want us to do next.